Max Heller was a great friend of mine and a great mentor of mine. I was on his youth commission when I was in high school, and he was just a very special man. I remember when I started Greenville Forward, I was walking by his office. I think I was visiting with you, and I was walking by his office one day, and Max said, Russell, come into my office. I wish I could do the accent, but he said, please come into my office. And I thought, God, this is awesome. He's like going to pass the torch of Greenville to me. This is going to be fantastic. And he looked at me and said, Russell, do you like beer? And it took me off a little bit. And I said, well, yeah, Max, I guess I do. So why do you ask? He said, because you're getting fat. The wise words of a mentor. So a bronze statue stands on Main Street. I hope you have all visited it. Outside the convention center at the Hyatt, they bear Max's name. Many of you probably don't know that the convention center is named after Max in the Hyatt. The figure gazes toward the future with an expression of determination and thoughtfulness. Most passerbys do not know that this man arrived in Greenville in 1938 with $1.80 in his pocket, or that his vision and leadership fundamentally transformed the trajectory of this city. Today, I want to examine the life and legacy of Max Heller, not merely as a biographical exercise, but as a case study in transformational leadership, urban revitalization, and the profound impact one individual can have on a community's development. To understand the significance of Heller's accomplishments, we must first understand the context in which he operated. Main Street today, the one that we know, is a vibrant tree-lined boulevard characterized by thriving retail establishments, restaurants, and outdoor seating, pedestrian traffic, and economic vitality. This wasn't always the case. In 1971, when Heller became mayor, downtown Greenville exemplified the urban decay afflicting American city centers as people moved to the suburbs. 4 lanes of high-speed traffic cut through the Greenville downtown corridor. How many of you remember that? Commercial vacancies proliferated as businesses relocated to suburban shopping centers. White flight moved people out and to the suburbs. Pedestrian activity was minimal, particularly after dark. The area had become associated with crime, prostitution, drug activity, and urban blight. The textile industry that had sustained Greenville's economy for generations was in steep decline. At this time, Greenville started tearing down many historic buildings under the cover of urban renewal and progress, as if demolition could somehow solve the problem of the city's decline. This is a photograph of the old City Hall next to the new City Hall that was built in the early 70s. Frequently, the doubters of downtown redevelopment said spending dollars to give Main Street a facelift is a waste of taxes, and the city council might as well face reality. Downtown is dead. This was reported in the Greenville News. Greenville's downtown had become a deserted urban wasteland, an epicenter of drug deals. The future looked bleak. In this context of deterioration and disinvestment, Max Heller perceived not inevitability, but opportunity. His vision for downtown revitalization would prove visionary, his methods innovative, and his impact enduring. This is his story. Act 1, Vienna to Greenville, Escape and New Beginnings. Max Heller was born in Vienna, Austria in 1919 into a middle-class Jewish family. His formative years were spent in the Vienna of the interwar period, a city renowned for its cultural sophistication, architectural grandeur, and intellectual life. Vienna in the 1920s and early 1930s represented the apex of Central European culture, home to Freud, Mahler, Klimt, and countless other luminaries of arts and sciences. However, this cultural flourishing existed alongside a darker current of Austrian anti-Semitism. The rise of National Socialism in Germany after 1933 emboldened Austrian anti-Semites and created an increasingly hostile environment for Vienna's Jewish population. But it was also shadowed by something darker, growing anti-Semitism that would soon consume Europe. The annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany occurred on March 12, 1938. Almost immediately, systematic persecution of Austrian Jews commenced. Heller, then 18 years old, experienced this persecution directly. He was forced by former classmates, now wearing Nazi armbands, to scrub gutters on his knees in public humiliation. This incident, which he would reference throughout his life, crystallized for him the rapidity with which civilized society could descend into barbarism when hatred went unchecked. The Heller family recognized that immigration was not merely advisable but essential for survival. However, immigration from Nazi-controlled territory required securing visas, exit permits, and critically, sponsorship from individuals in receiving countries who were willing to guarantee that refugees would be welcome. For most Austrian Jews, finding such sponsors proved extraordinarily difficult. Visa applications to the United States, Britain, Palestine, and other nations were routinely denied due to restrictive quotas and bureaucratic obstacles. And then something extraordinary happened. The kind of chance encounter that makes you believe in destiny. At a Vienna dance hall, Heller met a group of American women on a graduation trip from Greenville, South Carolina. They had no common language. Max spoke German and broken English. Mary Mills spoke only English, but with the help of a chaperone who could translate, they danced that evening. I can only imagine the pickup line he used to secure this dance. The next day, they took a walk around Vienna together. Max, ever resourceful, purchased a small German-English dictionary so they could communicate, pointing to words and piecing together meaning. At the end of the walk, they exchanged names and addresses, a simple gesture of friendship between two young people from very different worlds. But that simple gesture would save Max's life, and one that he would never forget. Following the occupation, in desperation, Heller wrote to Greenville's Mary Mills requesting assistance in securing sponsorship for immigration to the United States. He concluded his letter with a promise that would define his character. I will never be a burden to you. Mary Mills had not forgotten the earnest young man she had met in Vienna. This is a thank you note that were in the Furman papers to Mary when Max was running for Congress, and I think it kind of says it all. Mills brought Heller's request to Shepard Saltzman, owner of Piedmont Shirt Company in Greenville and a prominent member of the local Jewish community. Saltzman's response to Mills' appeal is historically significant. He stated, "How can I, a Jew, not help you, a Christian, want to help?" This statement exemplifies the interfaith cooperation that would characterize much of Heller's later work in Greenville. Saltzman arranged the necessary sponsorship. In 1938, Heller arrived in Greenville with $1.80 in his pocket and a borrowed suitcase. Saltzman provided Heller with employment at Piedmont Shirt Company, initially in the lowest position, sweeping floors at a wage of $10 per week. Heller's advancement within the company was rapid. His progression from floor sweeper to foreman to vice president demonstrated both his work ethic and his comprehensive understanding of the garment manufacturing business. This is also a love story. There's love in Max's story. In 1937, before leaving Austria, he met his wife, soon-to-be wife, Trudy, another young Jewish refugee. The meeting was brief, but Max was certain. He told her that day, "I will marry you." It must have seemed like an impossible promise, two refugees fleeing for their lives, separated by an ocean, their futures unknown. But Max kept his promise. He proposed, and in 1942, Max and Trudy were married on Main Street in Greenville, the very street that he would transform decades later, the street that would become his legacy. Their marriage, which lasted until Max's death in 2011, became notable in Greenville for the couple's hospitality, civic engagement, and partnership in community service. They resided 1 block from Beth Israel's synagogue, actively participating in Jewish communal life while simultaneously building bridges across religious and social boundaries within the broader Greenville community. This refugee experience, the trauma of persecution, the dependence on the kindness of strangers, the obligation of gratitude would fundamentally shape Heller's approach to leadership and civic responsibility. Act 2, business leadership and early political life. In 1948, having gained extensive experience in garment manufacturing, Heller founded his own enterprise, Maxson Shirt Company. The company grew steadily, eventually employing over 700 workers and distributing products throughout the United States and internationally. It represented a remarkable achievement for an individual who had arrived in the country as a penniless refugee just a decade earlier. However, Heller's significance as a business leader extended beyond commercial success. In the deeply segregated South in the 1940s and 50s, Heller made the consequential decision to integrate his workplace. He removed racial signage from water fountains and restroom facilities, and he implemented non-discriminatory employment and workplace practices. This occurred years before the Civil Rights Act of 1964 legally mandated such integration, and in a social context where such actions were not merely unconventional, but potentially economically damaging. According to Heller's later recollections, this integration was accomplished quietly and with minimal disruption. The decision reflected his conviction, shaped by his experience as a victim of Nazi racial persecution, that discrimination based on interchangeable characteristics was morally indefensible and practically corrosive to the community cohesion. This immigrant story, rooted in gratitude and shaped by the kindness of strangers, would become the foundation for his leadership. Max never forgot that his life had been saved by a young woman from Greenville who barely knew him, and by a Jewish businessman who asked a simple question: how can I, a Jew, not help you when you, a Christian, want to help? That spirit of interfaith cooperation and mutual aid would guide everything Max did for the rest of his life. By the 1960s, late 1960s, Heller had established himself as a respected figure in Greenville's business community. His commercial success, combined with his reputation for ethical business practices and civic engagement, led his election to Greenville City Council in 1969. Heller distinguished himself through his focus on housing policy, youth programs, and modernization of municipal services. His approach to governance emphasized fiscal responsibility, efficient administration, and responsiveness to constituent concerns. Notably, he maintained an open-door policy for citizens and press, believing transparency to be essential to democratic governance. For those that knew Max, and that knew Max well, I would argue that his greatest skill and his greatest talent is making the person who was talking to at that time feel like the most important person in the room, regardless of who they were. A characteristic anecdote from this period involves a journalist who, upon meeting Councilman Heller, stated, "It's my job to find out what you don't want me to know." Heller reportedly responded simply, "Fair enough." This attitude, welcoming scrutiny rather than evading it, distinguished his approach to public service. Should I make a comment about today's political environment? In 1971, Heller announced his candidacy for mayor. His platform emphasized downtown revitalization, neighborhood improvement, efficient government, and inclusive governance. He won the election with approximately 70% of the vote. which is astounding, trust me. In 1971, in his inaugural address, he laid out his philosophy of government with remarkable clarity. He told conservatives in the community, if it is our responsibility to judge what is obscene to read, it is also our duty to say that it is immoral to sit by and let people live in slums, health hazards, and crime-infested streets. He committed himself to environmental protection, noting that, quote, progress means more than steel, brick, and mortar, but it includes the preservation of the beauty of our trees, the cleanliness of our air, and the clearness of our rivers. He promised to establish a direct line to a citizen service desk where residents would be treated, quote, as promptly and courteously as possible as you are entitled to. This is currently Greenville Cares. He founded Greenville Cares. If you haven't used Greenville Cares, it's awesome. Heller's administration reforms were comprehensive. He reorganized the fire department. He separated the municipal court from the police department. He hired full-time professional city judge and attorney. He modernized municipal codes and established city-county cooperation on regional issues, which we still need to work on today. He constructed 5 community centers and 15 parks. When Duke Power discontinued municipal bus service, did y'all know Duke Power ran our bus system at one point? It's kind of interesting. Heller created the Greenville Transit Authority and worked with Greenville Technical College to establish a bus driver training program, utilizing church-owned buses during the transition period. If you got on a City of Greenville bus, it might have said First Baptist on the side. True story. These accomplishments demonstrated Heller's capacity for practical problem solving and coalition building. However, his most significant challenge and ultimately his most enduring legacy concerned the revitalization of downtown Greenville. Act 4, Downtown Transformation, reviving a dying downtown. The decline of American downtown commercial districts in the 1960s and 70s constitute a well-documented phenomenon in urban studies literature. Factors include suburbanization, automobile dependency, shopping mall development, and what historian Judy Bainbridge termed white flight and family flight led to the deterioration of urban cores throughout the United States. Greenville was not the exception. When Heller assumed the mayor's position in 1971, downtown Greenville exhibited all the characteristic symptoms of urban decay: high vacancy rates, minimal pedestrian traffic, infrastructure deterioration, and increased criminal activity. We used to say at the time, if you fired a cannon down Main Street, not only would no one hear it, but it wouldn't hurt anybody either. The prevailing wisdom among many business leaders and citizens was that downtown's decline was irreversible and that municipal resources would be better allocated elsewhere. Heller rejected this assessment. His vision for downtown revitalization was informed by his European background, particularly his memories of Vienna's pedestrian-friendly urban spaces characterized by tree-lined streets, outdoor cafes, and human-scale architecture. He believed that downtown's fundamental problem was not economic inevitability, but rather design deficiencies that prioritize automobile traffic over human activity. The initial response to Heller's proposal to narrow Main Street, reduce traffic lanes, and create a pedestrian-oriented environment was predominantly negative. Downtown merchants, already struggling economically, feared that reducing traffic capacity would further diminish the already limited customer base. The proposal seemed counterintuitive, even reckless. But Max had a vision. First, working with renowned landscape architect Lawrence Halprin, although Halprin never visited Greenville, which I find interesting. He wrote a plan for Greenville but never came here. His staff did, and they spent a couple days here walking Main Street. I have a dream to recreate that walk with photographs, with historic photographs. But using Halprin, Max developed a master plan to transform Main Street. and this is the plan. The plan is not a long written document. The plan, or at least the plan we have, is a copy of a speech given by one of the Halpern associates. So it's probably 500 words long, but very dense text. It's pretty visionary. Halpern's assessment of Main Street was frank. Yeah? The existing design was hostile to pedestrian activity and devoid of all aesthetic appeal. I don't think he held back, you know? But that's what Greenville needed to hear. Greenville needed a wake-up call. Halpern's plan transformed Main Street from 4 wide lanes of traffic into 2 lanes with angled parking, tree-lined sidewalks, decorative lighting, parks, and small plazas. Main Street began to take shape of a European village with green spaces, flower planters, and areas for outdoor dining, similar to what Max had experienced growing up in Vienna. He was quite literally bringing a little bit of Europe to Greenville. The transformation required not just physical changes, but coalition building and vision casting. Max worked tirelessly with local business leaders, Buck Mickle, Tommy Weich, and Alistair Furman Jr. specifically, who shared his belief that Greenville could be more than just a declining mill town. Halpern's plan, second, Heller worked to build a coalition of support among key business leaders. As I mentioned before, Buck Mickle, Tommy Weich, and Alistair Furman were among those who came to support Heller's vision. Together they developed the Total Development Plan, a comprehensive strategy for downtown revitalization that was initiated by the Greenville Chamber of Commerce. The cornerstone of the plan was audacious. A $30 million downtown hotel, and $30 million at that time, which I haven't done the calculations, but it's a lot more now. It included a downtown hotel, office building, convention center, and city commons project, financed jointly by the city and private business. Max was the first person to truly promote public-private partnerships for downtown's benefit. It's an innovation that will become a model for cities across America and for the cities that visit us. We had 38 cities that we know of visited us last year to find out what was the magic in the sauce. And part of the big magic is the public-private partnership, and also the belief that we can accomplish anything if we're willing to put our resources and our time and our money behind it. The effort to attract Hyatt was arduous. The corporation initially declined, citing Greenville's market size as insufficient. Heller's persistence was notable. He conducted research on Hyatt's leadership and discovered that CEO Jay Pritzker's mother had immigrated from the same region as Heller's parents. Heller traveled to Chicago to meet him personally, using this personal connection to build rapport. It was such a gift. He presented a comprehensive case of Greenville's potential, emphasizing workforce quality, infrastructure development, and the comprehensive nature of the planned revitalization. The strategy succeeded. In 1979, and there are a few other urban legends around why the Hyatt came here. One that I love, I don't know if it's true or not, but one that I love, but I'm gonna own it. One that I love is that the director of marketing for Hyatt's daughter was at Furman, and he didn't think there was a suitable enough place for her to stay in Furman, so he decided to come in. We are still the smallest market that has our Hyatt Regency property. The Hyatt opened on April 27th, 1982. The Greenville News characterized it as, quote, the anchor of downtown's rebirth. This assessment proved accurate. The hotel's opening catalyzed additional private investment, retail, residential development, and retail activity downtown. But Max's mayoral impact extended beyond Main Street. He championed greenway development and riverfront improvements that laid groundwork for what would become Falls Park on the Reedy River, subsequently recognized as one of the nation's premier urban parks. He promoted sidewalk improvements, street lighting, and neighborhood parks throughout the city. During the Nixon administration's housing moratorium, he lobbied federal officials for continued low and middle income housing support. He promoted downtown senior housing and mixed income residential development, anticipating urban planning trends by several decades. When Duke Power informed the city it would no longer operate the bus system, he created the Greenville Transit Authority. Contemporary assessments of Heller's administration were positive. The Greenville News editorialized that his administration had brought enlightened, efficient, positive government to the city. Act 4, or Act 5. Not every chapter of Max's story was triumphant. In 1978, after 2 successful terms as mayor, Heller was approached by Democratic Party officials to run for Congress. He secured the Democratic nomination, defeating State Representative Nick Theodore in the primary. His general election opponent was Carol Campbell, a Republican state senator. I hope the name you all recognize. Initial polling appeared favorable for Heller. October 1978 surveys showed him leading Campbell by a substantial margin, 51% to 29%. Political observers anticipated a Heller victory based on his strong record, business experience, and name recognition. However, the campaign that ensued became notable and notorious for its use of religious and ethnic prejudice as political strategy. Lee Atwater, you might recognize that name? Lee Atwater, Campbell's campaign manager, who would later become a significant figure in Republican national politics, developed a campaign approach that consistently emphasized Heller's Jewish identity and immigrant background. The Campbell campaign distributed surveys to voters containing questions designed to highlight religious difference, the difference between the 2 candidates. These surveys asked respondents to identify which candidate was, quote, a Christian man, and which was, quote, Jewish, and inquired whether being a, quote, Jewish immigrant would make voters more or less likely to support a candidate. While not explicitly anti-Semitic in language, these communications served to make Heller's religious identity a central campaign issue. The situation intensified when Don Sprouse, an independent candidate, entered the race. Sprouse explicitly articulated a religious qualification for congressional service, stating that, quote, everyone who goes to Congress should be a Christian, and asserting that, quote, could be a better congressman because he is a Christian. 5 days before the election, Sprouse held a news conference stating that voters had a right to know that Heller was not a Christian. Additionally, the Ku Klux Klan circulated literature throughout the congressional district stating, we must defeat Max Heller, who is Jew mayor of Greenville. If we allow him to become a congressman, it's another nail in America's coffin. Get out and shout against Antichrist rascal. The impact of this religiously motivated opposition was immeasurable. Heller's substantial lead in early polling evaporated. In the November election, he lost to Campbell by approximately 6,000 votes out of approximately 120,000 that were cast. The campaign generated significant controversy. Numerous Greenville residents wrote to campaign officials expressing outrage at the anti-Semitic rhetoric. One letter to Sprouse stated, I heard your comment concerning Mayor Heller's belief and must say it is one of the lowest blows in the name of Christianity that I have heard recently. I too am a Christian, and I would like to apologize to Mayor Heller on behalf of Christians and Baptists in particular. But here's what's remarkable. Heller never publicly held a grudge. In later years, he praised Campbell as a good governor. That ability to forgive, to see the bigger picture, was central to who Max was. He graciously stated, "I don't think Campbell was anti-Semitic, but he used whatever was available." Max received numerous letters from local residents who were sickened by the religious bigotry. The day following the election, Governor Dick Riley contacted Heller to offer him the chairmanship of the State Development Board. Riley would later characterize this as, quote, "the most important appointment I made as governor." I agree. Heller's electoral defeat thus led directly to his assumption of a role in which he would have profound impact on South Carolina's economic development. Act 5, probably Act 6, bringing the world to South Carolina. From 1979 to 1983, Heller served as chairman of the State Development Board, the predecessor organization of South Carolina's current Department of Commerce. Governor Riley had identified a critical challenge. South Carolina's traditional textile-based economy was in steep decline, and the state needed to diversify its economic base and attract new industries. Riley recognized that Heller possessed several attributes crucial to this mission: extensive business experience, fluency in German, understanding of European business culture, and credibility with both domestic and international business leaders. The strategy that Riley and Heller developed focused on attracting European and Asian manufacturers to South Carolina, emphasizing the state's skilled workforce, business-friendly environment, strategic location, and quality of life. Heller and his wife Trudy, along with Governor and Mrs. Riley, conducted extensive international travel to recruit companies. They visited the United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, France, Japan, China, Taiwan, and Russia, meeting with corporate executives and government officials. In Germany particularly, Heller's fluency in German and understanding of German business culture proves positive. In November 1982, on a business development trip to Germany, the most significant success of this recruitment effort was Michelin. Although Michelin's decision to locate its first American plant in Greenville in 1975 predated Heller's chairmanship of the Development Board, his work as mayor had been instrumental in securing that initial investment. Heller and Riley had made multiple trips to France, promoting workforce training and the capabilities that Greenville's Technical College had. South Carolina agreed to cover costs of sending management personnel to France for training. It's an innovative incentive. Michelin's subsequent expansion in South Carolina was substantial. By the early, and I think we probably have some former Michelin people in the room, or current Michelin people. There you go. I thought so. By the early 1970s, Michelin had constructed plants in Greenville, Anderson, Lexington, and Spartanburg, plus a research and testing facility in Lawrence. In 1988, Michelin relocated its North American headquarters from New York City to Greenville, a decision of enormous economic and symbolic significance. Other major recruitments during this period include Bosch, Fuji, 3V, they were an Italian textile company in Georgetown, and John Kim, an Indian chemical company in Greenville. The cumulative impact was transformational. According to historian James Cobb, by the end of 1970s, South Carolina had become the acknowledged pioneer in recruiting international business investment in the South, with approximately 40% of annual investment capital increases coming from international sources. During Heller's tenure as chairman of the State Development Board, more than 65,000 jobs were created in Greenville County alone. Okay. When BMW announced in 1992 that it would locate its North American manufacturing headquarters in Spartanburg, really Greenville? This decision was directly, geography is a myth, y'all. The decision was directly attributable to the groundwork laid by Heller and Riley in establishing relationships with German automotive leadership and demonstrating South Carolina's capabilities as a manufacturing location. The transformation of South Carolina's economy from textile dependent to diversified international manufacturing represented one of the most significant and successful economic development initiatives in the American South. Heller's role in this transformation, leveraging his language skills, cultural knowledge, and business acumen was central to this success. Even in his later years, Max was still shaping Greenville. When JHM Hotels bought the Hyatt in 2010, they invited Max and Trudy out to lunch. They asked, "What would you like for us to do?" Max replied, "What we did 30 years ago. Make sure you can do it for the next 30. He never saw his projects as monuments to himself. They were seeds planted for future generations. When he passed in 2011 at the age of 92, flowers appeared at the base of his statue on Main Street. Teachers brought school children there, telling them the story of the immigrant who reshaped Greenville. Children looked up at his bronze figure, staring into the kind face of a man they never met. That legacy, not just buildings or budgets, but values passed down, a spirit of gratitude, humility, and vision. U.S. Senator Jim DeMint, a Greenville native and Republican, eulogized Max. "Our state has lost a great leader with the passing of Max Heller. I will always remember Mayor Heller as a man with a generational vision for what Greenville could become. But more than that, he was a man of action who rallied community leaders to make those ideas reality. His tenacity set downtown Greenville on its current path of success and spurred the economic developments that have brought jobs and tourism to the upstate. The people of Greenville and the state owe him a great debt of gratitude." His impact: urban planning and downtown revitalization. Heller's vision for a pedestrian-friendly, human-scale downtown have proven remarkably durable and successful. And this was 50 years ago. The principles he implemented, mixed-use development, public spaces, pedestrian priority over automobile traffic, public-private partnerships, have become standard practice in urban planning. Greenville's downtown is now studied by urban planners and municipal officials from other communities as a model of successful revitalization. Property values downtown have increased dramatically. The area has become a residential, retail, dining, and entertainment destination. The transformation represents one of the most successful downtown revitalizations in the American South. I think another testament to that is I am teaching a class at Greenville 1 and starting in January, and the title of the class for Masters of City Planning students is Greenville, a Living Case Study. I think that's kind of a cool testament to Max. Economic development. The international recruitment strategy Heller implemented as chairman of the State Development Board fundamentally altered South Carolina's economy. The state's transition from a textile-dependent to diversified international manufacturing created hundreds of thousands of jobs and attracted billions in investment. The BMW plant in Spartanburg alone represents approximately $11 billion in investment and directly or indirectly supports tens of thousands of jobs. The automotive supply chain that developed along the I-85 corridor has made the region a significant center of American automotive manufacturing. Civic leadership and governance. Max's approach to governance, characterized by transparency, accessibility, fiscal responsibility, and inclusive decision-making, establish standards for municipal administration. His emphasis on public-private partnerships, citizen engagement, and long-term strategic planning influenced subsequent generations of Greenville leadership, myself included. Several aspects of Heller's leadership approach merit particular attention for their contemporary relevance. First, humility. Humility as a leadership foundation. Heller never forgot his origins. His frequent references to arriving in Greenville, to sweeping floors at Piedmont Shirt Company, and to the kindness of Mary Mills and Shepard Saltzman reflected genuine humility rather than false modesty. This humility manifested in his accessibility to citizens, his willingness to listen to criticism, and his attribution of success to collective effort rather than individual brilliance. Second, vision grounded in alternative examples. Heller's vision for downtown Greenville was not abstract, but rather informed by his experience in Vienna's urban design and European pedestrian-friendly cities. His ability to see Greenville was not as it was, but as it could be, and to articulate that vision compellingly to others, exemplifies the importance of exposure to alternative models and approaches. Third, they're out of order, but that's okay. Coalition building across differences. Heller's accomplishments, downtown revitalization, let's see, international economic recruitment, interfaith cooperation, all required building coalitions across diverse stakeholders with varying interests and perspective. His ability to find common ground, to respect differing viewpoints, and to construct consensus enabled achievements that would have made impossible through unilateral action. He believes strongly that you cannot do this alone. You have to have the community involved and engaged. He created many of our neighborhood associations that are currently in place. Is that correct, Camilla? Hopefully, maybe. But he believed in neighborhoods. And he had such strong moral character in doing the right thing, regardless of what people said or thought about him. That's one of the traits that I'm most appreciative of. He also believed in the power to forgive, as seen by the race for Congress. Never held a grudge, but saw the value in not holding a grudge. And here's your challenge: what will our Main Street moment be in the next decade or two? What big, impossible seeming vision can we embrace? What injustices do we need the moral courage to confront? And when the next generation looks back at Greenville, what will they say we did? Will they say we have the humility to serve, the vision to see possibility and decline, the gratitude to give back, the wisdom to build community together, and the courage to stand up for what's right? A personal reflection. For me, Max Heller's story is not just history. It's personal and deeply inspiring. His statue downtown is more than bronze. It's a reminder of what humility and vision can achieve. Max was a good friend of mine. I interviewed Max for the Greenville High newspaper when I was 16. Mark Johnson, I lost to calling, I think. The article wasn't very good. I was his youth coordinator during the ugly race for Congress. And a few years ago, the Furman Archives sent me a copy of this thank you note that I wrote to Max after my Greenville High interview. A line I love is, "If I were old enough, I think I would run for government office, but never against you." I think what's really cool is the phone call I made to Trudy Heller 9 years ago, saying that I was fulfilling a pledge that I made to Max Heller 40 years ago to run for city council. But as I reflect on Heller's life and legacy, certain questions emerge for contemporary consideration. What represents Greenville's equivalent challenge today to the dying downtown in 1971? What vision, seemingly impossible to current thinking, might transform our community for the better? What moral courage is required to confront contemporary injustices? What coalition building is necessary to achieve significant change? What gratitude should motivate our civic engagement? And what long-term perspectives should inform our planning? In closing, the journey continues. Max Heller's statue is not merely a memorial to a deceased public official. It represents a set of principles that transformed Greenville and that remain relevant to contemporary challenges. Heller demonstrated that leadership properly understood is service rather than status. That vision requires courage to see beyond present limitations. That gratitude should motivate reciprocal contribution. That community is built through coalition rather than domination. And that moral courage requires standing for principle even when costly, and that forgiveness liberates more than bitterness imprisons. The pedestrian-friendly downtown we enjoy today, the diversified economy that employs hundreds of thousands in upstate, the tradition of interfaith cooperation, the expectation of accessible and transparent governance, these represent Heller's tangible legacy. But perhaps his more profound legacy is intangible. The example of how one person arriving with nothing can, through humility, vision, and dedication, transform an entire community. So the next time you walk down Main Street, hope is soon, observe the trees that provide shade, the outdoor cafes where families gather, the thriving businesses, the pedestrians who have reclaimed this public space. Recognize that these physical elements represent the realization of one refugee's vision, a vision rooted in gratitude, implemented through coalition building, and sustained by moral courage. So, the next time you walk down Main Street, pause for a moment, feel the shade, watch the families, notice the restaurants and shops, the vibrancy and the life of downtown. Look up at the statue near the convention center that bears his name, and remember, one man's journey changed Greenville forever. What journey will we take together? What seeds will we plant for the next generation? What community will we build together? The story of Greenville isn't finished. Max Heller wrote an extraordinary chapter. Now it's our turn to write the next one. Thank you. And this is a fact.